Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I would first like to thank the audience on behalf of the Research and Development Division at ITPSS for taking part in this talk. I will begin the talk by briefly introducing our contributing members to our research and development project here in ITPSS. The Information Technology Protective Security Services, ITPSS, is the leading cybersecurity solutions provider in Brunei Darussalam. Our company consists of trained Bruneian professionals in various fields of cybersecurity, such as digital forensics, network security, blockchain, and so on. My name is Zara Laila. I am part of a dream team led by Tuan Fahmi Osman, accompanied by two highly trained blockchain developers, Safwan Ahman and Haziq Hamzani here on my left. The development of our digital identity solution is greatly supported by a team of highly trained AI experts and infrastructure network security experts. We actively consult other cybersecurity experts to ensure the integrity of our project and the data is protected and maintained. It is with great pleasure that I now introduce our blockchain-powered digital identity solution for Brunei Darussalam. Identity initially emerged as nothing more than a PhD proposal I submitted to both UTB and UBD. With the support of our CEO, Tuan Shamsul, our CIO, Tuan Azman, and our Deputy CISO, Tuan Zaki, we were able to envision and begin our development of research for Brunei Darussalam in May of last year. It's been such an amazing experience witnessing a theory come alive. So what exactly is identity? Identity is a digital identity solution with verifiable credential capabilities powered by blockchain technology which has the security features required to ensure that the credentials issued has not been modified for malicious intent. The main features of our solution include enhanced security to ensure the integrity of the data, remote biometric verification developed in-house by our team of AI experts, zero-knowledge proof to prevent the oversharing of sensitive information, real-time verification, and passwordless login. As part of our initial research and development phase, we were required to identify problems we face in Brunei Darussalam with our conventional system. The first would be the management of multiple usernames and password. A person holds too much login credentials to keep track of. Most official applications, whether it be the government or a private entity, often require copies of our IC, but our IC itself contains too much confidential information, such as our address, full name, date of birth. This information can potentially be used to access our banking information through the phone as verification. Transactions performed offline, such as providing our IC copy to various organizations or companies, are difficult to keep track of. I personally wouldn't be able to keep track of how many companies I've already provided a copy of my IC to and what they're using it for. Individuals will look for ways to obtain income illegally, even create fraudulent identification cards just to apply for a loan or steal another person's money by accessing their bank accounts. In light of the COVID-19 pandemic, essential services were required to be performed online, but were unable to verify the identity of an individual. An example for this scenario would be the activation of Darussalam accounts done through WhatsApp, where we would send a photo of our IC and a selfie of us holding our IC. Another problem we identified is no real-time verification. In order to verify a credential, we would be required to contact the credential issuer directly. Let's say if a credential was issued by UTB, SPA would be required to contact UTB directly to ensure that the credential is indeed valid and authentic. This would be very difficult if the university was overseas. How can we immediately determine that a person's credential hasn't been revoked as well? If a person had authority to collect money on a company's behalf with a previously issued company ID that they claim they lost upon resignation, they would still be able to continue claiming money on the company's behalf. Centralized database, as opposed to blockchains, possess their own vulnerabilities. If there is no fault tolerance set up to protect database, they risk losing all their data. Finally, misplaced physical credentials. In my whole life, I've only misplaced my IC and birth certificate once. Even that incurred a penalty fee. It was replaceable, but I had to undergo the tedious process of making a police report, then going to the relevant organization to have them reissued. These are issues many, including myself, currently face, not just here in Brunei Darussalam, but overseas as well. In 2020, Brunei Darussalam became home to approximately 453,000 people, which is a 36.1% increase of 120,000 people as compared to the year 2000 when the Smart Identity Card Management System was first implemented in Brunei Darussalam. So much has changed since then. In conformance with the Wawasan Brunei 2035 framework, it is fundamental to provide macroeconomic stability. As the population continues to grow with the interest of becoming a digitalized smart nation, it is essential to explore the latest technological advancements with the objective of establishing trust between an issuer, a holder, and a verifier with regards to government-issued credentials. In 2020, there was an announcement on circulation of forged identification cards, which were sold off to foreigners. This was disappointing for many, especially the government, because the privilege of becoming Bruneian, a permanent resident, included free and subsidized healthcare, education, registry of companies, and even access to jobs in the government meant for our people. So what exactly is a credential? A credential is a piece of document that details a qualification, competence, or authority issued to an individual by a party with a relevant or de facto authority. Unlike conventional credentials, a verifiable credential can be shared and authenticated remotely over digital channels real time. In this case, we're verifying our credentials with the blockchain. Here, I share a few examples of credentials, but are not limited to what our solution can cover. The examples are identification cards, medical documents, academic certificates, marriage certificate, and insurance. So we've chosen to integrate our verifiable credential solution with blockchain technology. Blockchain technology is a distributed ledger of immutable digital records shared amongst participating nodes on a peer-to-peer network based on consensus verification mechanism. Unfortunately, this is not something I can explain in a single 45-minute session. The technology is known worldwide in the tech industry for its security features. This includes decentralization, meaning there's no single point of authority for the system, allowing no room for corruption. Immutability, so that the data is not modifiable. Asymmetric cryptography for the security of the connection and data. Distributed ledger technology to ensure that every node on the network has a copy of the hash transaction. Consensus mechanism to ensure that the transactions mined onto the blockchain is not for malicious intent. And hash Merkle tree structure, where if any one datum within the blockchain is modified, it will deem all following blocks within that node invalid to instantly trace the source of modification. So if anyone ever has the interest in understanding this more, you may feel free to reach out to ITPSS Research and Development Division directly. This is something we would gladly explain to our participants. By integrating blockchain technology with verifiable credentials, we can provide transparency, maintain integrity, immutability, enhance security, distributed ledger architecture, efficiency and automation, auditability and traceability, and reduce transactional costs as we minimize human interference and intermediaries. So with zero knowledge proof that I've mentioned earlier, our system now has the ability to share. With zero knowledge proof, our system now has the ability to share limited data based on the requirement by authorities through selective disclosure or predicate proof without compromising sensitive information. Selective disclosure means displaying only data that is necessary to prove a requirement, whereas predicate proof avoids displaying personal information just that a certain criteria is met or not. An example would be applying for a gym membership. So the gym only wants to verify if I am old enough to become a member. So the expected result for selective disclosure would be to only display my date of birth without compromising any other information. With predicate proof, it's a true or false statement. It would ask a question like, is this person old enough to become a gym membership? They would, in this case, mathematical calculation will be done back end, and the result would only be true or false. So it will not compromise any sensitive information such as displaying my date of birth. So our verifiable credential model that we use for identity is actually based on the World Wide Web Consortium, which is the main international standards for the World Wide Web. Here we have an issuer who signs the credential, provides it to the holder who countersigns this credential with the verifiable data registry and presents that credential to a verifier. All these processes involve active connection with our blockchain to verify the credentials, from issuing to sharing. So going forward, we do not intend to phase out physical smart cards, but rather provide the convenience of issuing digital identity credentials issued to mobile devices. Why? Because we still have to consider individuals who do not have access to mobile devices, senior citizens, and also persons with disabilities. Not to forget that our mobile devices run out of battery eventually. So here I have a diagram showing the possible use cases for identity. I've based it off my baby, my unborn baby, who I will be naming Awang. So at 0 years old, Awang is born and is issued his first digital identity credential. In this case, it would be a birth certificate by JIPK. This will be issued into the parent's mobile device. At 2 years old, Awang applies to school using his JIPK digitally issued birth certificate. At 5 years old, Awang receives his first COVID-19 vaccination certificate issued by MOH upon completing 2 doses. At 10 years old, MOE issues PSR academic certificate to Awang for secondary school registration. At 12 years old, Awang goes to JIPK to enroll his biometric data into the JIPK database with his picture and fingerprint. At 15 years old, MOE issues GCE O-level certificates to Awang for pre-university registration. At 16 years old, Awang registers for a bank account through Identity's eKYC at bank to receive allowances. At 17 years old, MOE issues a GCE A-level academic certificate to Awang for university registration. Around 6 months later, Awang applies for government scholarship at university by verifying previously issued credentials. At 18 years old, JIPD issues Awang his driver's license upon completion of driving tests. At 20 years old, university issues bachelor's degree certificate to Awang through Identity. 6 months later, Awang applies for a government position through SBA to verify relevant credentials. A year later, Awang begins working for the government and is registered a top credential. And a year after that, Awang applies for his first car and house loan through the bank's eKYC system. We are currently within the development phase of our minimum viable product, and we hope to deploy our finalized product by the end of the year. We call upon the support of various government agencies and private companies or institutions to take part in the development of our project to maximize the best delivery of our solution for Brunei, the people of Brunei. I will now pass the floor to my colleague, Haziq Hamzani, who will be explaining on the features of our development. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Haziq and I will be presenting the features of identity. Here we have our mobile app. This is our onboarding process. So when you first download the app, you can either create a wallet or recover from one if you have one before. On wallet creation, you need to be issued your first credential, which is your IC detail. Our AI team have developed a remote biometric verification where, as a user, you need to take a picture of your IC and then take a picture of your face. The facial recognition engine will compare your selfie photo with the JIPK or immigration database, and once the verification is successful, your credential will be issued to your wallet. Um, uh, we know that not all phones are up to date, or maybe the remote biometric verification failed. We have an alternative solution. We are going to install Kiosk to multiple locations in Brunei to have the user's credential to be issued. Through this kiosk, there will be a card reader for the user to insert their IC to verify the credential. And once verified, the credential can be issued. There is also an issuance of credential by going to the counter. This is for the case of maybe for the elderly or AKU who needs help, where they can be verified by the admin or the counter to be issued manually to their wallet. Here, we have the administrative panel for the immigration admin. We have simplified the page to only have 3 buttons, which are to view, issue, or revoke credentials. There is also a search bar at the top where the admin can search for the person that they want to issue or revoke the credential to. We have also created an indicator for the admin panel to be easily identified whether the credential is issued, revoked, or expired, or soon to be expired. Next, we have the process of issuance of credentials. This is in the case of the onboarding process has failed, or any other issue or organization that wants to issue credential to user's wallet. So first, the user will just need to scan the QR code generated by the admin panel or kiosk, and the credential will be issued to the user's wallet. Note that there is a lot going on behind each process. So when you scan, the users will be connected to the issuer, and they will be verified, and once verified, the credential will be issued to the wallet. As for revocation, the revocation can only be done from the admin panel, where the admin can only revoke the credential. There is also automatic revocation, where expired credential will be revoked automatically once it is expired. For example, your IC or your driving license. So there is no need for manual revocation for the expired credential. With identity, we also provide passwordless login, and we are going to replace Darussalam with our login API. To log in, the user will just need to scan the QR code provided by the site, and they will present the credential, and once verified, they should be able to be logged into the website. This passwordless login API can be provided to any system as long as they can be integrated with our API. So in the future, you don't need to enter username or password anymore to any site. So you can just scan and present your credential by scanning the QR code. Next, we will move to the next section of our presentation where our developer will share their experience developing this project.
So I'm going to be talking about the development experience of making identity, basically. So the developers for identity are myself, Haziq, Zara, and our boss, Fahmi Osman, which is there. So basically, our background, we have a degree in computer science, and yeah, that really helped with the basics of the development, since programming and stuff. I mainly deal with the mobile development, and Haziq does the web development as well as the server side. Before getting hired to this project, we had just a little bit of knowledge on blockchain technology and its connection with cryptocurrency and such as Bitcoin and stuff. And the next slide. Once we were brought to this project, everyone in our team had to undergo training to attain the skills required to develop identity, especially in terms of security. So the first training that we did was the Hyperledger Sovereign Identity Blockchain Solution in Indy, Aries, and Ursa. So it was basically getting familiar with the technology that we were going to be developing and getting more in-depth knowledge on blockchain. From here, we learn on why blockchain is a good technology to use for our digital identity solution because of its features, such as like immutability. And then the next training that we did was becoming a Hyperledger developer and developing blockchain-based identity application. This was more about getting to know the tools that we were using for identity and how we were going to develop using it. This training was more technical, which really helped whenever we need to refer back on the library and how to use it. And the most recent training that we did was application security, security web apps, APIs, and microservices hosted by SANS. Since identity is partly a web-based app, it uses a lot of APIs, so this training basically helped us with securing it as we are dealing with personal data. And the next I want to talk is about the challenge that we face during the development of identity. So since it's a new technology, so of course there's challenges that came with it. And so the first was the learning curve. Both of us, the developers, didn't really have much experience with developing mobile and web app, like in terms of both front end and back end. So our boss really helped quite a lot with providing hands-on help and also resources to get us along with the development. And eventually, once we got the hang of it, the problems that we were facing eventually got easier. And then the second was the time constraint. So we had a timeline that we strictly needed to follow from the proof of concept, prototype, and MVP to the final product, which is soon. This is important to us to follow as we do want to show our stakeholders our digital identity solution as soon as possible. We also want to hold with the Smart Nation vision with digitalizing our country. This was challenging for us at that time, like when we first started, because we were hit with the COVID second wave, during the Delta wave, and we were quite new to the company. So most of it was online for the first few months, but with the help of our boss and our team member, we did manage to follow the timeline. So during the time of our hires, it was basically quarantine season, and when Haziq came, like, we all just met online. So the only hindrance during that time was that getting used to working from home and communicating online, but eventually we got used to it. This helped a lot as Zara also helped up setting up with a weekly meeting, like to discuss like blockchain or anything that we didn't understand. And then another problem that we had was insufficient resources. So with new technologies comes problem naturally. Since the libraries and framework that we were using were quite new, there were not many solutions that were provided online. So we reached out to quite a lot of developers of the frameworks, and a lot of them do like helped us with the solution, but some basically just never came back to us. So we made our own solution with it and our work around it. While we were developing the digital identity, we realized there was a lot of data discrepancy with the data that we were dealing with, which required it to be cleansed. That was challenging as we needed to see what those like discrepancies were and how it came to be. And basically once we found it, like, it just took time to clean the data. And then the next one I want to talk about is the development goal. So as technologies and threats constantly evolve, we believe it is essential to improve our skills in development, which includes learning new programming languages, security enhancement, and venturing into other alternatives. Our developers have set goals to improve their credibility and experience as developers. So first, we want to train ourselves in Hyperledger Fabric. It's basically another like blockchain framework. It enables us to use like smart contract and also customize the blockchain technology to our own needs, not just like identity. So like it can be used for chain supply tracking or digital money. Hyperledger Fabric will also enable us to have a more flexible functionality using the blockchain. I believe this is important as well as for Brunei to achieve the digital transformation and for Web3, as it gives control back to the user on how they want to share and use their data. And then with the Solidity, Flutter, Dart, OpenJS, and Rust, we want to learn on how to develop using them, as it will give us more options on the framework and library that we can use, such as Hyperledger Fabric. It's also fun learning new programming languages, which also opens up to new possibilities, to new projects in the future, so that we can easily use it with. And then after that, we also made several public contribution and talks, discussion regarding about the blockchain, like we introduced what blockchain is and what the use cases are to the public. So we've done this virtually with Rampai Pagi at RTB, online seminars with research, as well as some stakeholders meeting. We believe it is important for the public to keep up with the current technologies that are being used around the world, and we hope to see it being used more often in Brunei. So if anyone wants to be like the beta tester for the digital identity app, there's a QR code which is also available in our booth back there behind the doors. So you can just sign up. And that's it for the presentation. If you guys have any question and answers, feel free to ask about our experience in the research and identity.